Well, blessed to be a part of your day. We made it through another year that was. I want to thank Ray Amaya for doing an outstanding job of keeping everything running here. And, we're going to start 2018 with an apology. And, the apology is that, we needed to take some time off. And I thought that we had a great lineup here when we're talking about the best of programs. And I will tell you this. That in my time of doing this is my 23rd year of doing talk radio, I've kind of grown to look for some time off. And I don't know if that happens when you're getting older. I don't know if that happens that you're losing your hunger, if it's like Rocky 3, you're losing the eye of the tiger. But rest is important. Now, many of you are just getting back to the Treasure Valley, although a lot of you did the Kevin Miller. And you worked. I just kind of stayed home and defragged. So many times we have all these things going on in our lives, so I just sat there and binge watched a lot of dumb stuff and a lot of bad college football games. Of course, some good ones last night, but I digress. So it's been a while. We're going to have to retrain ourselves at 580-5436, 580-KIDO to get into the mood of calling and such. And that's what happens, and I never, ever, ever want to take our relationship for granted when we're, when you have so many choices. Last night I had a chance with Mrs. Miller. We went out to dinner, which was like the first time since July when the East Coast Millers were here, which is, you don't have time to do these things, I guess, or you get used to eating in. I know this is a very exciting segment to start off with, but I was at the Sensi thing, and it was nice, and I love Christmas lights, and I don't know if they're taking them down today, but it was great to see, all the lights and everything else. And, a gentleman came up, he took our picture, thankfully, because the selfie in me just wasn't playing out. And he said, "Hey, you're that Kevin guy. And how did Miller's Mission work?" And I said, we raised a lot of money. Not we, you raised a lot of money. Dan Van Patten did that $20,000 match. We almost matched it. We had, $16,000, actually almost $17,000 of donations to the Boise Rescue Mission. And, around people say, hey, this show's doing something. We still have a long way to go. And it's the time of year where we commit ourselves to trying to do more good. And we'd like to think of this program, and if you're just tuning in, it's a little different than every shows. Well, Kevin, people say that all the time. No, not really, because we're for the Treasure Valley. We're for the community, and we do so with our Promote Our Schools efforts. We do with our other efforts as far as reaching out with the Boise Rescue Mission. We'd love to get back into the shelter business as well. And, move on from there. So I guess we could say this is the state of the show, but the phone number here is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And again, I apologize for taking so much time off, but, you listen towards the end of those years, we were just getting a little worn down. And that includes, taking care of you and taking care of me. Now, we can talk about the Iranian situation. We can talk about the taxes, going down federally, and it would be nice to get the ROI. But I think there's just something else that is reaching out to grab us here. And it's whether or not you believe that this is the Idaho that you have grown to know and to love. And I think that's where we are at 580-KIDO, 580-5436. That is Idaho, is our beloved gem state changing? Now, think about this for a minute, and people are going to go, oh, here you go again, Kevin, bashing the people from California. Well, I don't know if I'm bashing well, yeah, I kind of am. Not the good people, the conservatives, but the people that come in, that tailgate. It's kind of like a Sunday night is sacred for a lot of folks. Many people go to church on Sunday mornings or Saturday night. I go to church on Sunday night. It was like the person that was racing me on Chinden, tailgating me, all the way to Holy Apostles Church. And I'm thinking, in the, what was it, a $80,000 Audi SUV? And I'm thinking to myself, 5 years ago, just 5 years ago, you wouldn't have had those issues. And they had Ada County plates on them, because that's the first thing I check. And I'm just looking at the growth and people leaving California. In fact, on one of the shows, they said, look, you want a view, you want land, you want low taxes and a great quality of life, move to bleeping Idaho. So as we start the year 2018, your thoughts on the quality of life here. Has it diminished? Now, I'm thinking to myself, we're in danger of being overrun. Well, Kevin, what do you mean? We've got all these great conservatives. We've got all this going on. How are we going to be overrun? Well, I look at it, and you take a look at this thing we used to laugh about, not having traffic. We've got traffic. We've got schools going up. You've got West Ada looking at another levy, another bond. And you think, well, Kevin, that's just how it is. It's growing pains. And you put people in charge to deal with the growth, and you take a look at our leadership. Are you satisfied with that? When you're looking at the leadership involved here in dealing with the growth and everything else. So that's one topic. Another topic has to be, well, we'll get to marijuana. I'll save marijuana for you in a minute. Has to be this issue where we're taking a look at the country of Iran. And I know what you're thinking. You're going, Kevin, I used to live in Los Angeles, or I used to live on the East Coast or in Oregon, where now people can, in 2 counties can actually self-serve the gas. And we'll get to that story here. But Iran has always been something very, very troubling for a lot of us. And by the way, if you're new to the Treasure Valley and you're listening to us on 107.5 FM, my name is Kevin Miller. This is the station where people come to talk, albeit it's going to be tough to get everybody out of the sleepy-headed moods because the best ofs kind of droll you to sleep. We'll try and wake you up. But Iran has always been that country that has gotten away. Think about the country of Iran in the 1970s. And I know we have a lot of young people, which is unusual for a talk station, but you read about them in your history books. You've seen them on your tablets, led by the Ayatollah Khomeini. And when people will look back at the end of the 20th century, and they will take a look at Iran and what they did when they held our people hostage, and the so many days, and Jimmy Carter's downfall, and Ronald Reagan's ascent, you could talk about the ebb of American world influence happened in the country of Iran. And Desert One, where we had the Delta Force. We hear about the Navy SEALs, but we've had the Delta Force. They went in and we lost, 8 men, I believe, in Desert One. And it was because we were trying to rescue the hostages. Say what you want about Jimmy Carter, but he tried very hard to rescue those hostages. So Reagan comes in. Iran continues to be a problem. You have, what did we lose? 241 people in Beirut. And it was sponsored by, Hezbollah, whomever, Hamas, these terrorist groups. And they've always had a home base in the country of Iran, or Iran, whatever you want to call them. And this has been a growing problem. Now, in the year 2008, I was working east of the Great River, and we'll just leave it at that, and I was actually inspired by Ted Koppel, because Ted Koppel got to go to Iran, and Ted Koppel got to do a lot of things. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to take a radio show to Iran? I know, and I'm going, this isn't a gimmick. This is how it is. So I decided to put this together. And, of course, when you're dealing with the broadcast industry, everybody's cheap, so I was funding it myself. And I was figuring out how to get to Iran. And I knew it was going to be a story. And then 6 months later, there was a bunch of protests. And even before that, Kevin Miller was shown the pink slip, which led him here to the beautiful Gem State. But I always thought, and for many of us, in your 60s or 50s or 40s or 30s, you have always wondered about Iran. And now we have Iran blowing up again. But unlike when Obama was in, Donald Trump is treating Iran a little differently.
The government will definitely not tolerate those groups who are after the destruction of public properties or disrupting the public order or sparking riots in the society.
And there we have it at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And there we have it, the protests going on in Iran. And I know what you're thinking. Kevin, we've got North Korea, we've got Syria, we've got Russia, we've got China. This is a downer this morning. Let's get back to, hey, everybody, what's your New Year's Eve resolution? But this is serious. Here's our own Griff Jenkins with the latest at KIDO Talk Radio.
Now, this memo showing a degree of panic at the highest levels of the Iranian government and how Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei is responding to the threat posed by this uprising. This memo saying religious leaders and the leadership must come to the scene as soon as possible and prevent the situation from deteriorating further. God help us. This is a very complex situation. It's different from previous occasions, perhaps a reference to the so-called Green Revolution 2009, where demonstrators rose up and Iranian President Rouhani publicly declaring this time that he will not tolerate the protesters.
Right. So there we have it. Protests going on in the country of Iran. Donald Trump saying, look, those people are starving. I'm not going to sit back and let this happen. I'm going to encourage them. Of course, we've done that again and again. Now, the Iranians are not Arabs. They're Persian. And the Persians have a long history. You want to insult them, call them Arabs. But the Persians and the Persian Empire and everything else goes back a long, long ways. And you, again, without the crazy radical mullahs, people there love America. They love America. They love the Western culture when they're allowed to have it. Now, the last time you had this type of protest, what happened? It was squashed by the Revolutionary Guard. Will that happen again? So, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, two things. Are we losing our great quality of life here in the Treasure Valley? Or is that 2018 hyperbole? Number one. And number two, Iran. Your thoughts about, could it be a showdown? Should it be? Or should we just get along, everybody? The time is 6:18. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio on 580 AM, 107.5 FM. My name is Kevin Miller. Coming up next, we'll talk a little bit about the new laws, and we'd love to hear from you. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio.
It's not only false, it's laughable. And unlike Rouhani, I will not insult the Iranian people. They deserve better. Brave Iranians are pouring into the streets. They seek freedom. They seek justice. They seek the basic liberties that have been denied to them for decades.
There we have it. That is Benjamin Netanyahu on the situation in Iran that continues to percolate.
Iran's cruel regime wastes tens of billions of dollars spreading hate. This money could have built schools and hospitals. No wonder mothers and fathers are marching in the streets. The regime is terrified of them, of their own people. That's why they jail students. That's why they ban social media. But I'm sure that fear will not triumph, because the Iranian people are smart. They're sophisticated. They are proud.
And there we have it at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. That is the latest coming out of the Middle East. Oh, the Middle East, just when you thought, hey, we've taken down ISIS, Al-Qaeda's on the run, life is good, the Middle East, it's time to book your vacation to Israel, Jerusalem, what have you. And yet we have the situation percolating with Iran. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Is there any idea that you would think of justifying action against the regime and Tehran?
Today they risk everything for freedom. Sadly, many European governments watch in silence as heroic young Iranians are beaten in the streets. That's just not right. And I, for one, will not stay silent. This regime tries desperately to sow hate between us, but they won't succeed. And when this regime finally falls, and one day it will, Iranians and Israelis will be great friends once again. I wish the Iranian people success in their noble quest for freedom.
And there we have it, Benjamin Netanyahu on the situation percolating in Iran, which may or may not be a good thing. Looks like military action. I don't know what we're going to do with the Seventh Fleet. What do you mean, Kevin Miller? Well, I think we have the Seventh Fleet. I think the Seventh Fleet is actually off the coast of North Korea, or one of the fleets. I don't think we have a lot of fleets going on, but apparently that's what we have. We have a limited Navy, as we've covered right here at KIDO Talk Radio. So we have to figure out what we're going to do. Where are we going to put our assets? So that's one thing. Another issue here is, and if this doesn't get you going, I don't know. I don't really think I have a plan B. The President of the United States said that he doesn't want the transgendered folks to be serving. Now, isn't the President the Commander-in-Chief? Isn't he the Grand Poobah? Isn't he the guy that understands how to make things work? If that's the case, why in the world are we having courts and judges saying, not so fast, the Donald? I'll tell you about that in a minute. KIDO Talk Radio Time.
Today, transgender individuals can join the U.S. military if certain conditions are met and a doctor certifies that the individual has completed medical transition and have been stable for 18 months. The U.S. military was forced to comply with a federal court mandate last month that goes into effect today. Staff Sergeant Katie Schmid filed one of the 4 lawsuits currently pending against the federal government after President Trump tried to ban transgenders from serving.
There we have it. So, again, you have to be stable. Hearing Jennifer Griffin's report, you have to be stable for 18 months. I don't know what that means. I don't really want to know what that means. But, hell, in the old days, you could say things to disparage people. We won't. We're overly sensitive. We're, politically correctly neutered here on talk radio in the world of 2018. But, okay, help me out with this. If you're going to transition, maybe it's a serious move for folks. Obviously, it takes a big commitment medically, psychologically, emotionally to decide if you're a man to become a woman or a woman to become a man. Almond Joys, Mounds, you take your pick. And maybe maybe you've had people. And look, we're a family-friendly show, so let me give you that disclaimer here. You have people that, at one time they try to go outside of a traditional relationship. If they're a guy, sometimes you have men that have been married and all of a sudden they decide, or they've always known that they were gay and they have a relationship with a guy, and then sometimes they go back to a woman, or same thing with women, right? I'm just kind of confused by it all. So how do you know if something's going to stick? Well, according to the military regulations, you've got to be whatever you're going to be for 18 months. But what is the mission of the United States military? And to me, when the President of the United States says this is how it is, it's not up to some court to say, no, not so fast, Mr. President. How many years did we have don't ask, don't tell, right? And we start the new year with Liberty Linda. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I know I missed you as well as I know everyone else did, but I'm so happy that you're able to get a little bit of R&R and rest and relax and not have to run in there every single morning. Isn't it wonderful?
Yes, fortunately, they have this thing called remote access. So I was never that far. I was never that far away. I had to tweak this, tweak that. There's nothing like getting a call from the computer at the radio station saying, do this, do that. You're never that far away, but I'm blessed to be here with you, and I missed everybody. I did. I spent a lot of time talking to myself.
I can imagine, and that's the technology that we're into today, though. You have your computer call you.
Exactly.
Well, however it goes, and. But we did miss you, but I was very happy. We all need that time off to just relax and you recoup, you rethink, and maybe you don't think at all.
Yeah, that's the best part. Of course, I think we have a lot of that going on around here.
I know it. I agree with you on that one. I used to have a neighbor that was from Iran. His door, faced my door, and we talked a lot. He was a very nice person. And he used to always say to me that he was westernized, that he'd lived in this country for 20 years, and he loved it here. Although he still loved his own country, he would go back there quite often. But he said there are many in Iran that were westernized and that they love this country as well. So I thought that really kind of fit in with what you were talking about this morning, because I actually met this person. He's very nice, and he loved both countries. And so I thought it kind of fit in with what you're talking about.
No, I agree with you, and that's underreported by the press that, the people of Iran love America. They want to be all about America. And unfortunately, you've had leadership there that will not allow that to happen, that hate us. And I mean, Liberty Linda, let's go back to, 79, and one could say that was probably the beginning of the end of our scaring everybody into submission, the post-Vietnam era in America, because you had these people, these crazy terrorists that broke into our embassy and, took our hostages. Mark Bowden did a great book called Guest of the Ayatollah. And what these people went through was just crazy.
You're absolutely right. And that's why it was so amazing to meet this person and hear what he had to say about his own country, because I'd always heard different than what he was telling me himself. While he lived next door to me, he actually went back there to Iran and visited for a while and came back and showed me pictures. And he was just a very nice, wonderful person. And so I just wanted to share that, and I'm sure others have met people like him here.
Well, there was a guy, and I think his name was Kevin something or others. And he actually was this reporter for NBC, and then he got hired by Yahoo. And part of his thing was he traveled the world. And there was this guy, he did blogs and videos. He went, and this is what spurred me to want to go to Iran, was he went to the old embassy, which is kind of like a decrepit museum. And just to see that, because it was such a historic event, a historic tragedy for those of us that remember when that happened, that lived through when that happened.
Well, I already like his name, Kevin. He has a good name. But, it's amazing as we learn these things in our life, and many people today are learning that the Iranian people, many of them do love the United States so much. So I'd rather see the things that we have in common than the things that we don't have in common.
You got to get past the mullahs there.
Well, I don't plan on going over there anytime soon. So, but thank you for talking about this morning, and appreciate everything you talk about, Kevin. You always keep us so informed here.
Well, it's a blessing to be here, Liberty Linda, and I hope you have a happy and prosperous 2018. And are you going to give us a Go Tommy Go? Because this is go time for all those candidates.
Absolutely. I support Dr. Alquist, and I think he'll make a wonderful governor for us.
Well,
as well as Russ Polcher. I support Russ Polcher as well.
Fair enough, and we support you.
Two great people. Well, and you're at the top of the list. You're the best.
Well,
we love you the most, Kevin.
Well, we love you, Liberty Linda. You take care now.
You as well. Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, coming up next, Oregon says you can pump your own gas in certain places, and California says time for a little smoke on the water. We'll talk about it. Those stories and more with me, Kevin Miller, on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. And always appreciate Aaron and Rob from Team Mazda Subaru, Reverend Roscoe from the Boise Rescue Mission, Sights and Sounds, well, actually sounds from last year. Okay, in California, the new law went into effect, which allows legal recreational pot sales. Went into effect at 12:01 a.m. Monday. Fox's Marianne Rafferty reports from Los Angeles on KIDO Talk Radio.
California voters approved the permissive law, and state officials hope fully legalizing the drug will disrupt the illicit market and bring in $1 billion in tax revenues. But since Colorado became the first state to legalize recreational pot, opponents like Chelsea Clark say problems abound.
We've seen when that use increases is things like the traffic fatalities increasing, the use, obviously, of youth and adults increasing. We also look at things like ERs and hospitalizations and homelessness.
California's new law does not permit public smoking, and police officers say they're on the lookout for impaired drivers. In Los Angeles, Marianne Rafferty, Fox News.
You know, what's next? Are they going to have, like, the Rose Parade, and all of a sudden they're going to have a big, giant marijuana leaf?
Everybody here is from all over the world, and everybody's so nice. We always meet new people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're going to celebrate plants and such, why not celebrate marijuana? You know, as you may have known, and if you're new to the program, again, we get a ton of new people coming in and looking for news and information and talk. We're your location here every morning from 5 to 9. Then it's Glenn Beck, Dave Ramsey, Sean Hannity, and our great friend Lars Larson, who is our news show from 6 to 9, followed by Clyde Lewis. Although Clyde wasn't on last night, we apologize for that one. And then our great friend George Noory. And, you know, when you talk about this issue of pot in Idaho, you have a lot of people that, you know, they want to roll with the cannabis. Liberal Steve and others. To me, that young lady broke it down. You're going to have people drinking while or smoking while driving. Fatalities are going to go up. You're going to have a lot of people that are non-motivated. I mean, you can always tell a dope smoker, right? That's why they call it dope. Well, Kevin, I disagree with. Well, I get it. And the argument that the state of Idaho has had when it comes to medical marijuana is that if you allow medical marijuana, it just is the gateway to legal marijuana. I don't know how these states can do it because there's federal laws saying pot is illegal. Joining us now, the second call of the new year, Tom Munns, TomMunns.com, Munns Tom Twitter, a return of a Miller Militia original. Good morning, sir. Happy New Year.
Wow. What an intro. Thanks, Kevin. Happy New Year to you, too. I wanted to be able to chat a little bit about this California law. You know, the one thing that we forget, too, is that California, in its ability to create laws like that, also decides that they don't want to incarcerate for crimes, or rather just let people out for lesser crimes. You know, you and I have talked about this pot issue for a long time, and I always told you it was better served for the states to regulate, if anything, but because the federal law does not supersede state law, or at least lawfully isn't supposed to. If we get to the point where people would rather, you know, have complete disregard for one another because we have sort of dropped into this sort of immoral, irresponsible nature, I don't really think there's any law that can protect anybody from anything. And this is the thing that people don't understand, is that law wasn't created for the things that we're using it for. You know, when you sit there and you say, well, law is, my son and I got into this talk about the gun control. And I said, look, he said, if you're going to create a law, what you do is you just bound the moral people. You bound the moral and responsible people. That's where the liberty is destroyed, because the people that are going to break the law are going to break the law anyway. And he said, well, I don't know. I just believe in gun control. I said, I know why you believe in it. That's not the problem. But based on principle and based on the proper understanding of law, we've completely abused law, which is why we're a more lawless society with more laws that we have. And look at, and the one thing I wanted to leave with you, Kevin, is this. The government is so busy incarcerating people. When do the people get to incarcerate government, or is it impossible for government to do anything unlawful?
Repeat that. Hold on, Tom. It's a little early here, 2018. Repeat that one again.
If the government is so busy incarcerating people, then when does it become unlawful, or when does the government become unlawful in overstepping its limitations on its people?
Well,
you see, we have.
Well, hold on. Let me answer your question. I think when the people fail to hold the government accountable, and you could go back to Obama, you could go back to not only Obama, but you can go back to the NSA, the IRS, the CIA. There are a lot of people that are mad at Edward Snowden. He caught them lying. He caught them breaking the law. No one has been prosecuted for that. Take a look at the movie The Big Short. All these people with the mortgages and the lying and everything else, not one person went to jail for that. That's my answer to your question.
That's exactly my point. Now we're being busted for things that are even considered less of infractions, and now we're even going to court for, accusations that were 30 and 40 years old without evidence, and yet the government now still rules over the people, and we still say we're free? I mean, the government is beyond reproach. It's above the law. This has to stop. And until people start realizing the basic, at least in my view, the basic fundamental principles of what law is like. I spent this last week rereading Lex Rex. What a fantastic book. If you guys have never read it, it's about the biblical primer on civil government. And it talks about how the government is supposed to operate. And I'll bet you dollars to donuts there's not one person in government that's ever read it, except for maybe Doug Trouble. Anyway.
All right, Tom. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
All right. Much more coming up next. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO.
Prohibition's ended and patrons are going to come out and want to join us. Also, we're going to see a lot of our ghost patients that are coming out, and our veterans who didn't want to get added to the queue or to the system will now be able to come and buy cannabis.
And there we have it, Mike Alvarez of Bud Tender at Bloom Dispensary in Santa Ana, California. Remember, can we still call California the land of fruits and nuts? Or is that offensive? I don't know. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you, Ray Amaya. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Hank. Hank, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and I hope you enjoyed your vacation.
Yeah, it was what it was.
Well, you probably deserve a rest off. I think you knocked yourself out to deliver probably the best radio show that I've ever seen. And I listened, like I said, from Bob Salter and Coffee Time on K10 Radio back in 1964, and Ira Blue on KGO Radio back in the mid '60s. So I'm a connoisseur of talk radio, and I think the addition of Lars Larson, I think, will help your ratings or your lineup quite a bit at night.
Well, thank you. We're very happy to have Big Lars back here in the Treasure Valley.
And my first point is this: don't elect Democrats to run to the presidency if you want to run a foreign policy that promotes the interests of the United States. We have China, thanks to the Truman administration back in the 40s, by withholding support of the nationalists. We had a chance to take back Cuba. But we had a president, Mr. John F. Kennedy, who lost his nerve and withheld critical air support to the Cubans that were fighting Castro. We have Mr. Carter, who was responsible for Iran, and we have Obama, who tried to make Iran the regional power of the Middle East. So I mean, it's electing Democrats to the presidency in the modern era seems to be hazardous to the interests of the United States. And my second point, as far as this gender stuff, I always thought that there's no constitutional right to serve in the armed forces of the United States. It's determined by the needs of the United States in terms of its armed forces. If a person is unqualified or in a sense not in the best interest of the service to serve, we have every right to serve. There's no automatic constitutional right to serve in the armed forces. This is, again, liberal judge-made law. And, I mean, we could probably have Teddy Roosevelt, who wanted to fight in World War I on the trenches, being denied by President Wilson. He could probably nowadays file for age discrimination, in this present regime. It gets down where liberalism gets to its absolute absurdity.
No, I would agree with you on that. Let's. What do you make of what's going on in California?
Well, California is in the process of a cultural and political decline, decline, and I don't know if it's going to be easily reversed. They're losing jobs, they're losing performance. It used to be the fifth biggest economy in the world. Now it's down to 12th and 13th and going down, steadily down. The first time in their state history, they have more people moving out than they're coming in, and as long as you can have illegal immigration and mass illegal voting, and have these people come in, swamping the country, the immigration thing, the Democrats are in permanent power. There's no way that you could get them out of there. Democrats in power for 30 or 40 years is a disaster. Whether you look at Detroit or several cities that have been under Democrat rule, I mean, Detroit hasn't had a Republican mayor since 1961. So, I mean, you can see what happened to Detroit. Every Democrat stronghold city, it's been a cultural and economic disaster. And California is in the process of a great disaster. And anybody that elects Governor Moonbeam, it is the state of nuts and fruits. When you elect a weirdo like that and as your governor, you know you're in trouble.
Hank, finally, do you believe we're losing our great quality of life here in the Treasure Valley?
Oh, the traffic. Well, in terms of the traffic, yeah, it's. I've lived this town all my life. I'm 66 years old. Lived all my life in Boise, and when you think of what the traffic was like in the 60s, and I started driving cars in 1966, and to what is now, I can't believe it. There's some days like when I try to get out of work over there at the post office on Cole Road, where I can't turn around and go north because the traffic is so wall-to-wall. I have to go south before I can go north again on that road sometimes. It's just wall-to-wall jammed up. And and the thing is that what's bad about Boise or the Valley is there's not a lot of room to build excess or more north-south or east-west roads, especially east-west roads. And I think it's probably going to go worse as time goes on.
Hank, Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year to you, too.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye. KIDO Talk Radio time is 6. And Kevin Miller in the morning here as we continue on taking your phone calls. We have a text here. Good morning, Kevin. If it's okay to smoke pot in California, Oregon, Washington State, how can or why couldn't you get a disability for being a pot smoker, but you can't get it if your hands, your shoulder, your back, and your knees are shot? Please explain that to me. I think you don't really have to jump into this mystery texter here. I appreciate the question. California, Oregon, Washington, and Colorado are breaking federal law. And we can have a debate on the supremacy clause and nullification. Remember, Butch Otter said there was a clause in the Constitution called nullification. Well, he took that to court and he was shot down. Okay? He was shot down by it. The bottom line here is that thanks to, with all due respect, and we want to be positive in the morning, we want to be positive all day, but the lawbreaker, President Obama, allowing these states to break the law to circumvent federal authority is something that the Trump administration, through Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, will have to deal with. The hypocrisy of the federal government in this case, remember how big of an issue it was where you had folks in Idaho that wanted marriage to be defined as that between a man and a woman. Well, no, the federal government took everybody to court and other people took them to court, and that was discrimination because the federal government is the supreme law of the land. Okay, that's the case. Number one. Number two, at 580-5436, then shouldn't that be the same thing when it comes to marijuana? The federal government is the supreme law of the land. They're allowing, in my opinion, these states to openly rebel by breaking federal law. Now, if you want to have some uniformity, make it legal for everyone, or it's time to tamp down on the lawbreakers. Very simple, right? But some would say I'm a simpleton. At least I'm self-reporting. Good morning.